Krishna Productions presents a dramatic narration of the book, The Life of Tulasi Devi. It was written by and is narrated by Amala Bhaktha. Both the book and the narration were copyrighted in 1991 and all rights are reserved. The book is based primarily on an English translation of the Sanskrit text of the Brahma Vaivarta Purana by Rajendranath Sen, which was published in India in 1920. The text was occasionally supplemented with clarifications and elaborations from the Shiva Purana, which was translated by a board of scholars and published in India by Motilal Banarsidass, and by the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which was translated by Swami Vigyananda and published in India by Munshi Ram Manohar Lal. However, this entire project was inspired by and is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. For it was Srila Prabhupada who brought to the Western world an understanding of the importance and value of the glorious Tulsi plant. And it was under his guidance and direction that countless devotees of God learned to honor and worship Tulasi Devi daily, and thereby make wonderful spiritual advancement. These practices are still going on in all temples of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and shall continue to go on, for the benefits of such practices are incalculable. But who is Tulasi Devi? A great devotee of Lord Krishna? Yes, but what makes her so great? Why is she worshipped in all ISKCON temples, in all Vaisnava temples? What did she accomplish to deserve such worship? What is her special distinction? These important questions will be answered shortly in this brief description of her blessed life. Let us begin with the introduction. In his summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's book, The Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada, in chapter 11, quotes the Skanda Purana as follows, quote, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Tulsi tree, which can immediately vanquish volumes of sinful activities. Simply by seeing or touching this tree, one can become relieved from all distresses and diseases. Simply by offering obeisances to and pouring water on the Tulsi tree, one can become freed from the fear of being sent to the court of Yamaraj, the king of death who punishes the sinful. If someone sows a Tulsi tree somewhere, certainly he becomes devoted to Lord Krishna. And when the Tulsi leaves are offered in devotion at the lotus feet of Krishna, there is the full development of love of Godhead." Unquote. In Kushakrata Das's translation of the book Sri Garga Samhita, Canto 2, Chapter 15, verses 37 through 39, and Chapter 16, verses 1 through 39, it is mentioned that Chandranana, Srimati Radharani's friend, had heard the scriptures directly from the lips of Gargamuni. Thus Radharani asked her what kind of worship she should perform to please Sri Krishna and to bring herself good fortune, virtue, and the fulfillment of her wish. After reflecting on this question for a moment, Chandranana told her that service to Tulasi Devi bestows the greatest virtue, good fortune, and blessing, and offers one Lord Krishna's company. She advised Radharani to gaze on Tulsi, touch her, remember her, glorify her, bow down before her, offer prayers to her, plant her, and worship her. By doing this, Chandranana assured, Tulsi would grant Radharani's desire, and also that anyone who serves Tulsi in these 9 ways attains the result one would attain if he performed pious acts in many thousands of millions of yugas or ages. Chandranana further said that one who plants Tulsi liberates his family from the cycle of birth and death. However many branches, sub-branches, seeds, flowers, and leaves there are on the Tulsi plant that one sows, that many ancestors and descendants in his family for thousands of Kalpa Yugas go to Lord Krishna's transcendental abode. When one offers Lord Krishna just one Tulsi leaf, he attains the same result as offering him every leaf and flower that exists. One who worships Lord Krishna with Tulsi leaves is not touched by sin, just as a lotus leaf is not touched by water. Yamaraj's servants will never enter a home that is in the midst of a Tulsi forest. If one plants, protects, waters, sees, or touches the Tulsi plant, Tulsi burns away the reactions to sins committed with one's body, mind, and words. Such holy lakes as the Pushkar, such holy rivers as the Ganges, and such deities as Lord Vasudeva reside on a single Tulsi leaf. If one serves the Tulsi plant daily, Sri Krishna will become his submissive servant. Thereafter, to please Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani vowed to serve Tulasi Devi by following Garga Muni's instructions daily for about 6 months. When her vow was completed, she feasted numerous Brahmins and donated to them an enormous amount of wealth. Then in the sky, the demigods sounded their drums and the apsaras began to dance. The demigods showered blossoms on the temple of Tulsi. Next, the beautiful four-armed Tulsi, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, appeared. She had lotus-like eyes, a golden crown, and glittering earrings, and she was seated on a glorious throne on a golden pedestal. When it descended to earth, Tulsi embraced and kissed Radharani, who was wearing a new Vaijayanti garland and whose serpentine braids were covered with a yellow cloth. Tulsi said to Radharani, "I am pleased with you and eternally conquered by your loving devotion. O lovely one, you very faithfully followed your vow as if you were an ordinary human being. You will attain the desire that fills your heart, mind, intelligence, and senses. Lord Krishna will be kind to you. How fortunate you are." Radharani then bowed down and prayed, "May I have pure devotion to Lord Krishna's lotus feet." Tulsi replied, "Yes, you shall," and then disappeared. Radha, King Vrishabhanu's daughter, went home feeling happy at heart. Anyone who hears this amazing story about Srimati Radharani attains wealth, pleasure, virtue, and the supreme spiritual goal of life, love for Lord Krishna. We now conclude the introduction with the following prayers. I offer my repeated obeisances unto Vrinda Srimati Tulasi Devi, who is very dear to Lord Keshava. O Goddess, you bestow devotional service to Lord Krishna and possess the highest truth. O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy on him, you make him a resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you will also grant me a residence in the pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the cowherd damsels of Vraja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may I always swim in the love of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. And now, the life of Tulasi Devi. Narad Muni asked Lord Narayan, O Bhagavan, how did the pure, chaste Tulasi Devi become your wife? Where was she born? Who was she in her previous birth? What family did she come from? And what austerities did she perform to get you as her husband? You who are above the material energy, not subject to change, the cosmic self, the supreme God, the Lord of all, omniscient, the cause of all, omnipresent, container and preserver of all. And how did Tulasi Devi, your chief goddess, become a tree? O you who resolve all doubts, my mind is curious to know all about these points. Therefore it compels me to ask you these questions. Kindly remove these doubts from my mind. Lord Narayan then related the following account. Manu-Daksha Sarvani was a partial expansion of Lord Vishnu. He was extremely virtuous, devoted to the Lord, and very famous for his good deeds. Daksha Sarvani's son, Dharma Sarvani, was also extremely virtuous. Dharma Sarvani's pious son was called Vishnu Sarvani, and his son, who was a great Vaishnava, was known as Raja Sarvani. However, Raja Sarvani's son, Vrishadhvaj, was fanatically devoted to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva lived in Vrishadhvaj's house for 3 celestial yugas or ages, and loved him more than his own sons. Vrishadhvaj did not revere Lord Narayan, goddess Lakshmi, or any of the demigods. He abolished the worship of Lakshmi in the month of Bhadra, or August and September, and the worship of Sarasvati in the month of Magha, or January and February. He did not participate in the sacrifice and worship performed out of respect for Lord Vishnu, and criticized them rather severely. The demigods did not curse him because they feared Lord Shiva. However, Surya, the sun god, no longer able to restrain his wrath, cursed him.
O king, just as you are completely devoted to Lord Shiva and only to Lord Shiva, and just as you do not recognize any of the other demigods, I declare that you will now lose your wealth and prosperity.
When Lord Shiva heard this curse, he became angry. Seizing his trident, he ran after Lord Surya. Afraid, the sun god went with his father, Kashyapa Muni, to Brahmaloka, the highest material planet, to take shelter of Lord Brahma. But Lord Shiva pursued him there. Lord Brahma, also afraid of Lord Shiva, took Lord Surya and Kashyapa Muni to the region of Vaikuntha, the spiritual or eternal world. There, with throats parched due to anxiety, they took refuge of Lord Narayan, the Lord of all. They offered obeisances to him and praised him repeatedly, and finally explained why they were so apprehensive. Lord Narayan bestowed his mercy on them and granted them the power to be fearless. He said, O fearful ones, be consoled. How can you be afraid of anyone while I am here? If anyone remembers me when he is in danger, wherever he may be, I hurry to him with my Sudarshan disc in my hand and save him. O demigods, I am always the creator, preserver, and destroyer of this universe. In the form of Vishnu, I am the preserver. In the form of Brahma, the creator. And in the form of Shiva, the destroyer. I am Shiva, I am you, and I am Surya. I assume numerous forms and preserve the universe. So go back to your respective places. You have nothing to be afraid of. All will be well. From this day on, you have nothing to fear from Lord Shiva. He is the shelter of the pious, is easily pleased, is the servant and lord of his devotees, and is great-minded. Lord Shiva and the Sudarshan Chakra are dearer to me than my life. In the world of valor, they excel all. Lord Shiva can easily create 10 million suns and 10 million Brahmas. For him, nothing is impossible. He is not conscious of the external world. Meditating on me, his heart centered, he is absorbed day and night. From his 5 faces he repeats my mantra with devotion, and he always sings my glories. Day and night, I also always think of his welfare. To whatever degree one worships me, to that degree I favor one. The nature of Shiva is all auspiciousness. While Lord Narayan was speaking, Lord Shiva arrived. His eyes were red, and he was sitting on his bull carrier holding his trident. He dismounted quickly and humbly offered obeisances with devotion to the Lord of Lakshmi, the tranquil Supreme Being. Lord Narayan, Vishnu, was sitting on his jeweled-studded throne. He was decorated with a crown, earrings, and a garland, and was holding his disc. His form was extremely beautiful, and his complexion like a fresh blue rain cloud. Each of his attendants had 4 arms and was fanning him with 4 hands. His body was anointed with sandal paste, and he was wearing a yellow garment. Lord Vishnu, who shows kindness to his devotees, was chewing betel nut that had been offered to him by his wife Lakshmi. Smiling, he was watching and listening to the dancing and singing of the Vidyadharis. After Lord Shiva bowed down to Lord Narayan, he bowed to Lord Brahma. Lord Surya and Kashyapa Muni respectfully saluted Lord Shiva. Then Lord Shiva worshipped Lord Vishnu, the Lord of all, and seated himself on a throne. The attendants of Lord Narayan began to fan Lord Shiva with white whisks to relieve him of the fatigue of his journey. Lord Shiva, because of being in contact with Lord Vishnu's virtues, then assumed a cheerful disposition and adored the eternal being with his 5 mouths. Lord Narayan was highly gratified. With sweet nectarine words, he said, "O Lord Shiva, you are the symbol of all good and welfare. Thus to ask about your welfare would be foolish. I would ask you only out of respect for the rules of society and the method prescribed in the Vedas. One who yields fruits of devotion and gives all prosperity should not be asked about his austerities or material prosperity. Since you preside over knowledge, it would be useless to ask if you are increasing in knowledge. It would be equally useless to ask a conqueror of death if he is free from all danger. But you have come to my residence for a reason. What is it? Have you become angry over something?"
O Lord Vishnu, King Vrishadhvaj is my great devotee. Lord Surya has cursed him, and that has made me angry. Out of affection for my son, the king, I was about to kill Surya. But Surya sought shelter of Lord Brahma, and now both of them have sought your protection. Those who are distressed and take shelter of you, either by speaking about you or by remembering you, become completely safe and free from danger. They overcome death and old age. What to speak of those who come personally to you and take shelter? When one remembers you, his dangers disappear. All good comes to him. O Lord of the world, what will become of my foolish devotee who, by the curse of Lord Surya, has lost his fortune and prosperity?
O Lord Shiva, a half hour has elapsed here in Vaikuntha. In that time, 21 celestial yugas have passed away. Therefore, King Vrishadhvaj, through the revolution of irresistible and dreadful time, is dead. His son, Hamsadvaj, in the course of time, also died. Hamsadvaj begot two noble sons named Dharmadvaj and Kushadvaj. They are both great Vaishnavas, but because of Lord Surya's curse, they have become luckless. They lost their kingdoms, including all property and prosperity. But they are now engaged in worshipping Goddess Lakshmi, who is pleased with their efforts. Therefore, she has agreed to descend to earth and expand herself partially by taking birth from the wives of those two kings. Then, by the favor of Goddess Lakshmi, Dharmadvaj and Kushadvaj will become prosperous, mighty kings. O Lord Shiva, your devotee Vrishadvaj is dead, so return to your abode. O Lord Brahma, Lord Surya, and Kashyapa Muni, you also should return to your realms. Bhagavan Vishnu then went with his wife to the inner apartments. The demigods went cheerfully to their own abodes, Lord Shiva continuing his practice of austerity. Dharmadvaj and Kushadvaj performed harsh asceticism and worshipped Goddess Lakshmi. Thereafter, they separately obtained the blessings they desired. By Goddess Lakshmi's favor, they again became the rulers of the earth. They acquired great spiritual merits, were married, and begot children. King Dharmadvaj was married to Madhavi. After some time, she became pregnant with a partial incarnation of Goddess Lakshmi. However, the infant remained in Madhavi's womb for 100 celestial years. Day by day, Madhavi's luster increased. Then, on an auspicious day and moment, when there was a full moon in the month of Kartik, on a Friday, she gave birth. The grace of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, manifested through the baby. There were marks of the lotus flower on the infant's feet. Her face looked like the autumnal moon. Her eyes resembled blooming lotuses, and her lips appeared like ripe bimba fruit. Her palms and the soles of her feet were reddish. Her navel was deep, and just above it were 3 folds. Her buttocks were round, and her body was delightfully warm in the winter and cool in the summer, very pleasant to touch. Her breast was firm and her waist thin, and the light shining from her body surrounded her like a halo. Her complexion was white, like a champaka flower, and her hair looked beautiful. Because her beauty was incomparable, the sages called her Tulsi. As soon as she was born, Tulsi resolved to go to the mountainous region of Badrinath to practice severe austerities. Though many persons tried to dissuade her, no one was able to, for she was determined to stay and pray in the forest till Lord Krishna appeared and agreed to become her husband. During a period of 100,000 celestial years, she endured the following. In the summer, she exposed herself to 4 fires around her and the sun above. In the winter, she submerged herself in the icy waters. And in the rainy season, she subjected herself to heavy downpours at the funeral grounds. For 20,000 years, she subsisted on fruits and water. For 30,000 years, she chewed dry leaves. For 40,000 years, she lived only on air. And for 10,000 years, she ate nothing and just stood on one leg. Finally, she saw Lord Brahma in the sky, riding on his swan carrier and sweeping down towards her. Believing that he had come to grant her a boon, she bowed down low to him. Lord Brahma said,
O Tulsi, ask me for a boon. Whether it be devotion to Lord Hari or servitorship to him, or freedom from old age or freedom from death, I will grant it.
Yes, O Lord, I will ask. Please listen. I will not hide my desires out of fear or shame, since you are all-knowing. My name is Tulsi. Formerly, I was a cowherd girl in Goloka, and there I served Radharani, the beloved of Sri Krishna. I am a partial expansion of Radharani and was her favorite companion. But one day, in the place where the Ras dance had occurred, Krishna became intimate with me and I fainted from excessive joy. While I was lying there, Radharani suddenly appeared and saw me in that condition. She was not at all pleased. Blinded with fury, she first reproached Krishna and then cursed me. She said, "O vile one, go and take birth as a human being." Then Krishna said to me, "When you take birth in India, if you practice austerities, Lord Brahma will grant you a blessing. He will arrange for you to marry the four-armed Narayan, who is an expansion of myself." Then Krishna disappeared, and out of fear of Radharani, I left Goloka and was born in this world. So please grant me that boon. I want to have that handsome and peaceful Narayan as my husband.
O Tulsi, Sudama was a partial expansion of Krishna and was one of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends in Goloka. As a result of a curse by Radharani, he is presently living on earth among the Danavas or demon race. His name is Shankachuda. He is very energetic and no one can compare with him in strength. While living in Goloka, he was very attracted to you and wanted to marry you. But because he feared Radharani, he did not make any overtures. Just as you are a Jati Smara, that is, one who knows her previous births, Shankachuda also is. Remembering his past desire to be close to you, he has performed severe austerities to obtain you as his wife. I now wish to grant his desire. Therefore, O beautiful one, please agree to wed him. However, later on, by the special arrangement of Providence, you will get the beautiful Narayan as your husband. But after that, he will curse you, and you will be transformed into the world-purifying Tulsi plant or holy basil. You will be the best of flowers, and dearer to Narayan than his own life. No one's worship will be complete without your leaves. You will remain as a tree in Vrindavan, and will be widely known as Vrindavani. The cowherd men and women will worship Lord Hari with your leaves. As the presiding deity of the Tulsi plant, you will always enjoy the company of Krishna, the best of cowherd boys.
Oh, Father, I will be honest with you. I am not as devoted to the four-armed Narayan as I am to the two-armed Krishna. For in Goloka, my close encounter with Krishna was suddenly interrupted, leaving me still longing for him. Thus it was only because Krishna had asked me that I have been praying to get Narayan for my husband. But now it appears certain that by your grace, I will again get Krishna, who is very difficult to attain. However, O Lord, please grant me the following boon, that I lose my fear of Radharani.
O child, I shall now give you the 16-lettered Radha mantra. By this boon, you will be as dear to Radharani as her life, and she will approve of your intimate dealings with Krishna.
Lord Brahma initiated Tulasi Devi into the 16-lettered mantra, the hymn, and the mode of worship of Sri Radha. Then, blessing her, he disappeared. As directed, Tulsi engaged herself in worshipping Srimati Radharani, and after 12 years, attained success. Obtaining the desired boon, she reaped the fruits that were unattainable by others. As the pangs of her austerities ended, she became cheerful. When one gets the fruits of one's labor and then considers the difficulties experienced in attaining them, the difficulties then seem pleasurable. Tulsi was in the prime of her youth, and she longed for the company of Sri Krishna. Finishing her food and drink, she lay down on a beautiful bed decorated with flowers and perfumed with sandal paste. She went to sleep with a happy heart. But while she slept, Kamadeva, the god of love, shot 5 arrows at her, arrows that were meant to enchant her. Consequently, though she was anointed with cooling sandal paste and slept on a bed strewn with flowers, her body began to feel as though it were on fire. Out of joy, the hairs on her body stood on end. Her eyes reddened, and her body began to tremble. One moment she looked thin, and at another moment she grew restless or drowsy. Sometimes she became agitated or warm with desire. At other times she fainted, then recovered, then sorrowed. Sometimes she got up from the bed, walked this way and that way, sat down or lay down. This abnormal condition of her body and mind increased daily, so much so that her soft bed felt like a bed of thorns. Delicious fruits and water tasted like poison. Her house seemed like a desert. Her soft, delicate cloth felt hot like fire, and the vermilion mark on her forehead pained like a boil. In her dreams, she saw a nicely dressed, smiling, jolly youth. He was adorned with jewels, besmeared with sandal paste, and garlanded with flowers. Gazing at her face, he spoke to her affectionately, and embraced and kissed her repeatedly. One moment he went away, the next moment he returned. Then she cried out, "O Lord of my heart, where are you going? Please don't go." When she awakened, she wept again and again. In this way, Tulasi Devi passed her days at Badarik Ashram. The sage Kashyapa was the son of the Prajapati or forefather Marichi, and the grandson of Lord Brahma, and was very learned. Daksha, another Prajapati, gave him 13 of his daughters in marriage. One of Kashyapa Muni's wives was known as Danu. She was very attractive and chaste, and Kashyapa cared for her with love and devotion. Danu bore many mighty sons, one of whom was Viprachiti, who was exceedingly powerful and courageous. His son Dumba was self-controlled and a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. But he could not beget a son, so he became anxious. Therefore, to improve the situation, he went to Pushkar forest and performed severe austerity for 100,000 years. There, sitting in a steady posture and uttering the Krishna mantra, he practiced japa. While practicing, an intolerable effulgence shot out from Dumba's head and spread everywhere. It was so hot that all the demigods, sages, and manus were scorched by it. Thus, with Indra leading, they all sought shelter of Lord Brahma. Arriving at Lord Brahma's abode, they praised him and then informed him of the situation. After hearing about it, Lord Brahma, to relate the problem to Lord Vishnu, led them to Vaikuntha. There, with palms joined reverentially, they praised the great Savior and Lord of the three worlds. The demigods then asked, "O Lord, we do not know what has caused this. Please tell us, what is that light by which we have been scorched?" Lord Vishnu laughed and lovingly said, "O demigods, do not be afraid. Remain calm and unshaken. No flood will occur, and it is not the time of universal dissolution. The Asura Damba, one of my devotees, is performing asceticism to obtain a son. I shall soon bless him, and that will quiet him." Encouraged by this, Lord Brahma and the other demigods returned to their own realms. Lord Vishnu then went to Pushkar, where Damba was practicing austerity. Seeing that Damba was repeating his name, the Lord consoled him and asked, "What blessing do you want me to grant you?" Damba offered his obeisances with great devotion and praised the Lord repeatedly. Then he said, "O Lord of Lords, O Lotus-eyed One, obeisances unto you. O Lord of Lakshmi, O Lord of the three worlds, please be merciful to me. Please give me a powerful and courageous son who will be your devotee, be invincible to the demigods, and be the conqueror of the three worlds." Lord Vishnu asked Damba to stop his austerity, granted him the blessing, and then disappeared. As the Lord vanished, Damba offered obeisance in that direction and returned home. Within a short while, his blessed wife became pregnant. She radiated an effulgence that illuminated the inner apartment of her residence. The soul residing in her womb was Sudama, one of Lord Krishna's leading cowherd companions who had been cursed by Srimati Radharani. When Damba's chaste wife gave birth to a radiant-looking son, Damba invited the sages to his place and had the postnatal rites performed. There was great jubilation, and on a favorable day, the father named him Shankachuta. The son grew up in his father's residence like the moon in its bright half. In his childhood, he learned all the traditions, customs, injunctions, and prohibitions, and became resplendent. Engaging in childhood play, he delighted his parents and became the favorite of all the family members. Later on, to obtain a boon from Lord Brahma, Shankachuta performed an austerity in Pushkar for a long while. He concentrated his mind, restrained his senses and organs of action, and chanted a mantra that his preceptor, Jaigishavya, had imparted to him. Finally, Lord Brahma went to Shankachuta to grant him a blessing. Lord Brahma asked,
"Tell me what boon you want."
Seeing Lord Brahma, the Danava king bowed to him humbly and praised him with devotional words. Then he said, "Please make me invincible to the demigods, and also enable me to marry Tulsi." Brahma replied,
"So be it."
Then he gave Shankachuta the divine amulet of Lord Sri Krishna. This amulet, called Sarva Mangalamaya, or Conqueror of the World, was considered the most auspicious of all auspicious things in the world, for it guaranteed victory everywhere. Brahma continued,
"Now you should go to Badarik Ashram. Tulasi Devi is performing penance there by her own will. You should marry her there. She is the daughter of King Dharmadvaja."
Lord Brahma then disappeared. Shankachuta, whose austerity had now borne fruit at Pushkar, tied that most precious amulet round his neck. He then set out for Badarik Ashram, his face beaming with joy. Tulsi saw Shankachuta approaching in his jeweled airplane and noticed that he was in the prime of his youth. He was handsome like Cupid, white-complexioned like the champaka flower, and decorated with gems. His face resembled the full moon of autumn. His eyes looked like lotuses in full bloom, and his cheeks flashed with the glow of his earrings. A parijata flower garlanded his neck, musk and saffron anointed his body, and sandal paste perfumed his person. As he came closer, Tulsi hid her face in her shawl and smiled at him with sidelong glances. Blushing at the thought of this first meeting, she bowed her head nervously and eagerly drank in with her eyes the lotus of his face. Shankachuta also gazed at Tulsi, who was seated on a lovely bed strewn with flowers and sandalwood. Her teeth shone like pearls, her lips were like bimba fruit, her nose was graceful, and her complexion golden. She resembled the autumnal moon. Adding to her grace, just below the parting of her hair, was the mark of sandal paste and musk, and just below them a mark of vermilion. She had a low yet deep navel, and below it 3 lovely abdominal folds. Her palms were reddish, her fingernails were glowing, and her feet were radiant and crimson, colored with lac dye. Her glowing toenails surpassed the glow of the autumn moon, giving her an unrivaled beauty. Tulsi was adorned with lovely jingling ornaments, and the knot of hair at the back of her head was decorated with a jasmine wreath. Shark-shaped earrings adorned her cheeks, while a diamond necklace beautified her breast. She wore gorgeous bangles of conch on her arms and wrists, as well as precious jewels on her fingers. Shankachuta sat down and said to her, "O beautiful girl, whose daughter are you? And how have you come to this forest? You look most fortunate and blessed. Indeed, you are the personification of heavenly joy, the very best of women. You are a model of loveliness and can certainly bewilder even the saints." "O gracious one, why don't you speak? I am your servant, so please greet me with the melody of your speech." Her head lowered, her face smiling, the beautiful-eyed Tulsi said, "I am the daughter of King Dharmadvaj, and have been practicing asceticism here. But who are you? And why are you talking to me? If a noble man sees a virtuous woman alone, he does not talk to her, so go away, wherever you please. The Shastras say that only a degraded man desires a woman. At first, a woman is sweet to a man, but later proves fatal. Though her mouth rains honey, her heart is like a jar of poison. Yes, she uses sweet words, but her heart is sharp like a razor. To achieve her own selfish ends, she is submissive to her husband. Otherwise, she is unsubmissive. While her face looks cheerful, her heart is dirty. Even the Vedas and the Puranas cannot fathom her character. A wise man never trusts a base woman. She has no friend or enemy, for all she wants are new lovers. When a woman sees a well-dressed man, she inwardly desires him, but outwardly she appears chaste and modest. She is naturally passionate, attracts men's minds, and eagerly engages in sex. Though outwardly she hides her lust and appears modest, when she meets her lover in secret, she is ready to swallow him up. When she does not have sex with him, she feels offended, her body burns with anger, and she begins to quarrel. When her passions are fully satisfied, she becomes cheerful. When unsatisfied, morose. A
woman likes a good lover more than sweet foods or refreshing drinks. She likes him even more than her own son. He is dearer to her than her life. But if the lover becomes impotent or aged, she regards him as an enemy. Quarrels and anger ensue. Then she devours him as a snake eats a rat. She is rashness personified and a mine of vices. A woman is hypocritical, obstinate, and unfaithful. Even Lord Brahma and other gods are deluded by her. She is a hindrance on the path of austerity, an obstacle to liberation, an impediment to developing faith in Lord Hari, a refuge of all delusion, and a living chain that binds men to the world. She is like a magician, and is as false as dreams. She appears to be very beautiful, but is a bucket of stool, urine, gas, and blood. When God created her, He arranged that she should become the spirit of delusion to the deluded and poison to those who desire liberation. Thus, on no account should a woman be desired, and by all means she should be avoided.
Shankachud smiled and then answered, "O goddess, what you have said is not completely false. It is partly true and partly false. From the Creator have come chaste and unchaste women. One is praiseworthy, the other isn't. Examples of chaste women are Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Savitri, and Radha. Women who are expansions of them are auspicious, glorious, and very commendable, such as Shatarupa, Devahuti, Svadha, Svaha, Dakshina, Anasuya, Ganga, Diti, Aditi, Vedavati, etc. In every yuga cycle, these women are excellent. The heavenly prostitutes are also expansions and partial expansions of the above women, but they are not praiseworthy because they are unchaste. Women who are in the mode of goodness are virtuous and pure. The sages declare them to be excellent. But those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance are not so praiseworthy. The passionate ones are fond of sense pleasures, indulge in them, and always want to fulfill their selfish goals. Such women are usually insincere, deluded, and irreligious. Generally, they are unchaste. But women in the mode of ignorance are considered the worst. They are irresistible. A virtuous man would never court another man's wife, in either public or private. But I have come to you by Lord Brahma's command, to marry you according to the Gandharva rite. In this, as you know, the bride and bridegroom meet each other of their own accord and consummate their meeting in union. No sacred rituals are necessary. My name is Shankachuda. When the demigods see me, they flee in fear. In my previous birth, I lived in Goloka and was a cowherd boy named Sudama. I was a close friend of Sri Krishna's, one of his attendants. I was one of the 8 celebrated cowherds. Then Srimati Radharani cursed me to be born in India in a demon family. By Krishna's grace and by his mantra, I am a Jati Smara, that is, I know the history of my previous birth. You too are a Jati Smara. So you know that in your previous birth in Goloka, when Radharani caught you alone with Krishna, she became angry and cursed you to be born here in India. In Goloka, I very much wanted to consort with you, but because I feared Radharani, I did not do so. Shankachuda stopped talking. Then Tulsi smiled and cheerfully said,
Persons like you are famous in this world, and good women desire such husbands. You have defeated me in argument. A man who is conquered by a woman is very impure and condemned by people in general. The forefathers and the demigods regard men who are conquered by women as low and contemptible. Even their fathers and mothers mentally despise them. The Vedas say that when a child is born or a relative dies, the Brahmins are purified in 10 days, the Kshatriyas in 12 days, the Vaishyas in 15 days, and the Shudras, as well as the other low classes, in 21 days. But a man conquered by a woman always remains impure. Only when his body is burned to ashes does he become purified. Neither the ancestors nor the demigods accept from him offerings of cakes, flowers, etc. Men whose hearts are totally conquered by women acquire no fruits from their knowledge, austerities, japa, fire sacrifices, worship, learning, or fame. I tested you to determine how strong you are in knowledge. One should choose one's husband by examining a man's merits and defects. If one gives his daughter in marriage to a man devoid of all good qualifications, to an old man, to a man who is ignorant or poor, illiterate, diseased, ugly, wrathful, harsh, lame, limbless, deaf, dumb, inactive, or impotent, this sin is equivalent to the sin of murdering a Brahmin. But if one gives his daughter in marriage to a young Vaishnava who is learned, well-qualified, and peaceful, one acquires the fruits of performing 10 horse sacrifices. If one raises a daughter and then sells her out of greed for profit, he falls to the hell known as Kumbhipaka. There, for a period equal to 14 of Lord Indra's lifespans, such a sinner has to drink his daughter's urine and eat her stool, as well as be bitten by worms and crows. When this period ends, he has to be born in this world as a diseased person and earn his livelihood by selling and carrying meat.